Hello and welcome. I am Ladi Akeredoluale. Tonight, Kaduna State Governor, while representing the acting president, says the presidency will not back down on acting EFCC chairman's appointment. Hundreds of Bakassi residents thrown out of Cameroun for allegedly failing to pay their taxes. Some are reported killed. Leader of the Islamic Movement of Nigeria, Ibrahim El-Zakzaky, to remain in protective custody as court in Kaduna strikes out suit challenging his detention. Protesters clash with police in Hamburg, Germany, ahead of the G20 summit.
And on business news tonight, Civil Society Organization of Nigeria calls for sustained government policies to boost agricultural development in the country.
While on sports news, Super Eagles' goalkeeping problems worsen after Carly Kemna is diagnosed with acute leukemia, which may rule him out of the 2018 FIFA World Cup qualifiers.
And from Abuja, wife of former President Patience Jonathan seeks help from the House of Representatives, claims she's been harassed by security operatives.
There are strong indications that the presidency is not backing down on its decision to keep Ibrahim Magu as the acting chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC. The Kaduna State Governor, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, quoting the message of the acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, said this at the commissioning of the EFCC zonal office in Kaduna. He reiterates that President Muhammadu Buhari has confidence in Mr. Magu's capacity to lead the anti-corruption war in the country.
Program at the Ghana Foundation.
Gathered here are heads of state and federal government agencies in Kaduna State to witness the official commissioning of the Kaduna Zonal Office of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Governor Nasir El-Rufai is commissioning the office on behalf of the acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, which dignitaries present say will boost the anti-corruption fight of the federal government.
Commission the building.
Despite the setback he suffered in his non-confirmation by the Senate since December 15, 2016, the acting EFCC chairman says he remains committed in the war against corruption in the country.
When you are fighting corruption, one cardinal principle that you need in fighting corruption is the commitment and the goodwill of the leadership, the political leadership. And here we have the commitment. Both the president and the vice president are committed to this fight. There's no doubt about that. And I think that is all encouragement that you need to move forward. That's why I said, if we must fight, it is this time.
Governor El-Rufai, in his speech, says he encourages the establishment of the EFCC zonal office in Kaduna because the state has zero tolerance for financial misbehavior.
I spoke with the acting president, President Yemi Osinbajo, who reconfirmed the position of the president and told me that as long as he remains acting president or vice president, Ibrahim Magu will remain the chairman of the EFCC. That is the only message from the president. So for those thinking that corruption is beginning to win this war, Magu will remain their nightmare for the next 2 years or 6 years, as the case may be.
The body language from the Senate had suggested that the confirmation of Mr. Magu is not likely to happen anytime soon, while the executive is also not willing to replace him as demanded by the lawmakers. With the subsequent suspension of other nominees from the presidency for confirmation, political watchers say the face-off between the two organs of government may pose a threat to the fight against corruption.
It's not so pleasant news as over 100 Bakassi indigents were today kicked out of Cameroun by the gendarmes. The reason given by the authorities there was that the residents did not pay their taxes, totaling about 100,000 naira imposed on each person. These residents were those who chose to remain in Old Bakassi after the ceding of the oil-rich region to Cameroun. The returnees were said to have arrived Ikang local government area of Cross River State at midnight and are presently scattered at different locations in neighboring Akwa Ibom State as well as in communities around Ikang in Cross River State.
They bribe our people for water side. They say may come pay 150,000 for tax. So these people, she don't have it. So they send us and they kill many people. They kill many people and send them away. Some have run to Ikanhie. Some run to Ibaka side.
After the tax, you pay a resident permit of 200,000. After the resident permit, they give you the condition of house to pay and pay the domestic house, and they give you condition of house where these our people are not because even to fish the boundary, they give you where to fish reach and where to fish end. So because of that, these our people cannot avoid. Even some of them are willing to do, but they are forcing them to do that. That's why they flee from that place they kill some of them. That's why they came down to Nigeria to seek for help and to tell the government of Nigeria that they should help them, because we as a common people have been trying our best as a leader there. We have been reporting, but we don't know what is happening. We don't know. So let the Nigerian government should see what they can do to help these common people so that the next thing will not happen again.
The current government and the legislature have not had the best of relations, and this has been aggravated by the disagreement over whether or not Ibrahim Magu should remain as acting chairman of the EFCC. The Senate has refused to confirm him based on security reports submitted by the Department of State Security, the DSS, but the executive is adamant in retaining him. To make matters worse, the National Assembly is holding on to comments alleged to have been made by the acting president that the National Assembly does not have the powers to affirm any appointees of government except ministers and ambassadors. Well, now joining me to look at this and also the sack of some of the Bakassi indigents by Cameroon from their country for alleged non-payment of taxes is a senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Emeka Ngige. Thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10. Mr. Ngige, can you hear me?
Thank you for having me.
Now, what do you make? How do you assess the relationship between the executive and the legislature, especially in view of this confirmation, non-confirmation of appointees by the Senate and then the presidency refusing to back down? What do you make of the whole scenario?
Well, it's very clear that the relationship between the executive and the legislature is not cordial. And obviously there is a communication gap which has not been in the interest of our democracy. The executive arm, starting from the president, the vice president, and then the legislature, the president of the Senate, the speaker, and the principal officers of the House, they ought to belong to one political party. And indeed, they belong to one political party. In the constitution of most of the political parties, be it PDP, APC, APGA, there is a body there called National Caucus of the party. The National Caucus of the party sits at least every fortnight, if not every week, where the president of the country, the vice president, the speaker, the president of the Senate, and other principal officers of the House, the national chairman of the party, and the members of the National Working Committee of the party, the governors, they meet to bridge communication gap, to discuss on how the party program will be executed, implemented, without misunderstanding or without friction. But you can see that in this dispensation, I've never heard that National Caucus of APC is meeting or has met. The same thing that the last time caucus of a political party met was when Obasanjo was president. So that's been one of the reasons why you find members of the same political party at the legislature and at the executive singing different tunes. discordant tones. And that is what is happening in this Magu issue.
Now, where does the law, I'm sorry to cut you, but where does the law stand? Because we have two contending points here. The National Assembly saying they do have the right to confirm or not to confirm appointees sent by the executive. The acting president allegedly pointed out that that's not necessarily true, with the exception of ministers and ambassadors. You're a lawyer. Where does the law stand as at today on this?
Yes, let me tell you, at the beginning of this disagreement, I was standing with the legislature based on the provisions of Section 2.3 of the EFCC Act. At the time the argument was raging, nobody's attention was drawn to Section 171 2D of the 1999 Constitution. And when my attention was drawn to it and every other person saw that provision, it became clear that a confirmation of the Senate is not needed for the confirmation of the chairman of EFCC, irrespective of the provision in the EFCC Act. That is the position today. The Constitution is superior to the EFCC Act. So if there is a conflict, to the extent of the consistency, the EFCC Act will be null and void. But this is the situation where if the legislature feels strongly, they have two options. One, to go to court, invoke the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, and challenge the refusal of the executive to present or to remove Mr. Magu from office after his rejection by the Senate. Or two, take advantage of the constitutional amendment process now ongoing and remove that provision that empowers the president of the country to appoint permanent secretary or head of any extra-ministerial department, no matter the designation, from being subjected to Senate confirmation before appointment. Let them remove it from the Constitution, then every appointment that the law provides for will be brought to them for confirmation. Personally, I feel that an appointment that has been made, if the law provides for it, for Senate confirmation, it should be done, so that the Senate will have the opportunity to do their oversight, to ensure that the people that are being brought there are qualified, to ensure that the people who are being appointed have no skeleton in their cupboard, and to ensure that there is fairness in the spread of the appointments.
It's at that point that we're going to have
Constitution
to. It's at that point we're going to have to leave it, Mr. Ngige.
That the president.
We've completely run out of time, Mr.
All
Ngige.
right.
Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for your perspective. It's a pleasure to have you with us. In part two, after the break, Lagos and Ogun States face more attacks from cult groups as the Commissioner of Police in Ogun State cautions against lynching of suspects. Do stay on with us.